So like there was stupid things like that I was like, I have no idea what's going on here.
I had 9 years at Collingwood and then 6 years at North, and it was like almost going back to the Collingwood side of things when I went over there with the Philly fan. Already quick, so I didn't.
Sav, firstly, nice to meet you.
You too.
The reason we're here today is because both of us have similarities in our journey. So you from AFL to NFL,
Yep.
me from Gaelic football and soccer to AFL, moving between countries. Firstly, I suppose, where did it all start for you?
Well, I used to be, as a junior, I was a shot put and discus thrower. I did athletics at school, and then grew into throwing the shot put and discus and became really good at that. My hopes were to be in the Olympics. So I enjoyed that. And then, a friend of mine asked me if I wanted to play football one day, and I was 16 and a half years old. And I certainly thought that there might be an opportunity. So I started playing. And what about yourself?
Yeah, I think for me, like, it was never my aspirations to play AFL. My grandfather had played Gaelic football for Mayo, so my dream was to win an All-Ireland final for my county. And also I played soccer from the age of probably 12, so I was kind of cross-coding between both sports.
Yeah.
And then I got the opportunity. We got to an All-Ireland final with Mayo. I got an email from someone in Australia to say, would you come over and play AFL? And I was like, what even is that? So my knowledge around the game was like, I have no idea of the rules. I have no idea. Like, Australia was the other side of the world, so far removed from what, I had ever thought of doing. So to answer your question, I didn't have aspirations to do it, but here I am.
So you, as a junior, didn't know anything about AFL?
The only thing I knew about AFL was the International Rules Series, because that was obviously well promoted in Ireland, and I'd known a couple of people who played in that. Did you play in that?
No.
But you would have been, was there international rules around that time when you were playing?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you started off with Collingwood.
Yeah.
And then we were there for how many years?
9 years at Collingwood, and then I went to North Melbourne for 6 years.
Okay.
Before going overseas.
Yeah, okay. So when you first went to Collingwood, what age were you?
I was 17 when I played my first game.
Yeah. And was that like, when you got there after, I suppose, being from the athletics background, were you like, did you now go, I've massive hopes and aspirations here? Were you still kind of toying with the idea of going back to athletics?
A little bit, because I hadn't played football for very long. So I thought, I'll just give it a go. And if not, then I can go back to athletics. Because my shot put and throw and discus throwing, I wasn't really going to peak till I was probably 26 to 28 years old.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'll give it a go. But once I got in there, and it was really hard because I had been doing an individual sport
I was going to ask that
for
question.
so long. The hardest part for me was actually learning how to be in a team environment and giving myself to others and helping them. I was just trying to take in so much that it was more a learning curve for me than anyone else, I think.
Did anyone help you to do that and to kind of come more team orientated, or was that just something you were self-aware enough to kind of look at yourself?
I think I didn't really know it then.
Yeah.
It's more so looking back now, but I thought that, I just had to, learn as much as I could, just be a part of the whole structure there. So, yeah. But how did you get, like you said that you got an email from someone. So it was like you weren't even looking to leave.
Yeah, no, not at all. So like most of my career, I was playing soccer, and I was playing soccer for Ireland. And then I gave up that for 1 year just to play Gaelic football because I really wanted to win All Ireland. My aspirations were always to go back to soccer and get back playing with Ireland again after that year. But then I got this email that essentially was, a sliding doors moment in your life where you go, will I take that opportunity? Should I go over and just see? And I was always a say yes first, figure out how after type person. So I went over for 2 weeks and saw, at the time, 6 clubs in Victoria. And I remember going into Collingwood was the first club I walked into, and I was like, oh my God, I was blown away. I was like, what is everyone doing in the office here? Like, what? Like, these coaches, like, all these people can help us get better. Because coming from Gaelic football and soccer, and where it was at in Ireland, particularly at the time, it was like, you know, it was an amateur level. With soccer, I was traveling a lot around the world. We were doing camps in Spain and random places, Macedonia. We were all over the place playing in the European Championships. That standard was really good, but Gaelic football standards were, in terms of like where we trained, having food after training, like all those basic things that you would expect, we didn't have. So
Right.
when I walked into Collingwood, I couldn't believe like the world of AFL and the resources that we had access to. And, you know, people will say that there's much more work to do on that front in the women's program. But for me, coming from my perspective, I was like, this is like heaven on earth. This is just the best thing ever. But I was also like, I don't know how, like it looked to me when I watched the game, I was like, oh, if they played the game more like Gaelic football, this could be so much simpler than what it appears to be. And obviously Gaelic football is non-contact as well. So I think at the start I was like, I'll transition really easily here. So the transition, obviously, which is what we talk about with you, going from AFL to NFL, I assume you'd never played NFL before you went over, or had you practiced before you went over? Tell me about how that came about.
Yeah, I practiced a little over here, especially more so when I knew I was going to retire. I started picking up a ball and kicking, and one of the local teams reached out and found out that I was maybe going to go. So they took me under their wing and tried to teach me as much as I could. So it was a bit of a learning curve. And then through that, I was able to get a workout to go over to America and you know, have a tryout, which went okay, but not quite the way that I wanted to. So I came back home and then talked through with Darren Bennett, who's over in America. Went out and went back to there and had some workouts. And then Philadelphia came along, and then like it was almost like 2 or 3 days before I was going to come home and literally give it all away. And then
As in give away the NFL.
yeah, even
Yeah.
trying, because I was
Yes.
over there for 6 weeks and I couldn't really,
Grasp
you
it
know,
fully.
get a workout or anything. But then once I had, you know, I'd planned to stay a little bit longer. And then once I decided that I was going to come home, Philly called and said, if you can get, you know, your butt down here, we'll give you a workout. And that was 2 days before I was literally going to, you know, pack it all in, because I had family there and it was pretty hard staying in New York with, you know, 2 kids and family. So, and then once they saw my workout, they said, yeah, we'll sign you up. And then it all steamrolled from there.
So when you first started to practice, were you like, I'm just going to kind of give this a go and I've no real expectations as to what the outcome is? Or were you like, no, this is what I'm going after now? Like, what was your mindset then?
It was more so with punting, it's more so like you have to want it and you have to need to be able to do it really well. Otherwise, you know, they will find out that you're not really interested.
Yeah.
So especially in America and their sport, they you know, put a lot of emphasis on it. So I really wanted it. It was my next path. So I trained literally almost every day, perfecting their ball, to how to kick their ball correctly, you know, with a torpedo, which, you know, I never really did much here. I know that we can, but I never really did. I knew that I could kick the ball far doing a drop punt, but I wasn't, you know, fluent in kicking a spiral. So that was the hardest part for me.
When you went over there, you were obviously competing with players who've done it their whole lives. Was that the case?
Yeah. So I knew there'd been a couple of Aussies over there that have done it before. But when I went, like, and I had the workout, those guys, back in the day, it wasn't really much about guys wanting to be a punter.
Yeah.
They were all, a lot of punters back in the day were quarterbacks that couldn't be good enough quarterbacks to make it. So then they would come back, you know, and still want to be a part of the team. So then they would be a punter.
Okay. Yeah.
So we had a little bit of an advantage, you know, kids growing up from young ages kicking balls were really, you know, what they wanted. They wanted the leg strength, and we had that. We just had to perfect the spiral.
Talk to me about the cultural difference between essentially the changing room in an AFL room and an NFL room.
It's a little different because you found that it was really more professional, because you'd come in from training and there'd be reporters everywhere and they'd want to know information about anything that they could get a grasp of. So, but the culture was very serious. It was very much professional over there. Even though it was professional in Australia, it was more so that you were mates and you just wanted to hang around each other and enjoy each other's company. And then you all had that common goal in the end. But Over there, it was very much a business about, the guys selling themselves, trying to make the most money that they could for their families. A lot of them come from poverty, so it was very much different.
How did you change your mindset when you got there, or did you just, I
I-
suppose, act the way you always would and just try fit in?
I felt it came more natural because I was more of an individual doing my shot put and discus.
Yeah.
Whereas when I went to the NFL, even though I was a part of a team, I was more so like a punter, and I was the only punter in that team. So
An expert in your field.
yeah, so I just did what I had to do as a part of that team. Yeah, so that's how I found it, very comforting that I could do that. Even though I was a part of the team, I was still able to just be, who I wanted to be in myself.
Like, obviously, everywhere you go, culture exists. What would you say the main differences are in terms of in Australian sport versus in American sport?
I think it's more about money over there.
Yeah.
Whereas here, I think it's more about winning a championship. If over there, if they don't win a championship, they're not too fussed as long as they've made their money.
Okay. Yeah. That's a very different mindset.
Yeah, and with Ireland, like when you were over there, was money a part of their whole thing there?
That's why I think a lot of the Irish players at some points struggle over here, because all we think about is winning and competing. Because Gaelic football is an amateur sport. You play for the same team you've played for your whole life. You play for the area you've come from, so you represent yourself and your family, and you never move from your team. So there's this loyalty piece with Irish people that we're all there for the exact same reason, and that's to come together, to be, I suppose, there for our families, and also to win. Never about money. So
you didn't transfer teams or draft
No,
or
never.
anything like that?
Never. So
it's very loyal.
Very loyal. So I think when Irish players come over here, the clubs almost know that when they go to one club, it's unlikely that they'll move to another club, because we've been known and taught to stay and, appreciate everything everyone's done for us and stay in that club. So there's Irish players, and there has been movement in the AFL, but I think generally in Ireland, if you did that in Ireland, it would be massively frowned upon. So you stay basically in your area. So I think that money was never an object, and it was always about winning. But then when you came over here and you realize that the motivations of everyone is different. So like some people are there because they like their job, and that's just to play football and be a part of it. Some people are there to win, and then, everyone's aspirations are really different. So I found at the start, I kind of couldn't get my head around that. I was like, why are people doing that? Because it always felt like, are you doing that for the right reason? Because in my head, the right reason is to play together, win together, and to be loyal.
Yeah. So in saying that, having that family connection at home, how do you go being all the way over here when family's home?
Yeah, I think my heart's always in two places, really. And I'm sure you found this as well. But you feel like this guilt for not being at home, and you feel like you're missing significant events in your family's life, and that's hard. And it probably is almost harder for them, because over here everything is kind of new for me, and like, even though I've been here 7 years now, I planned on only coming over for one season, and here I am 7 years later.
3 seasons, I thought.
You think that it'll just be like, oh, I'll just give it a go, and and then you create a life there, and you're like, oh, this is like, this is good over here. So I think, there's times where I'm like, I could be a bit off, and I could say it's because of training. I could say it's because of something, but it would always be that I'm homesick, but I'd almost never admit it until I kind of look at it retrospectively, and I'm like, that was me just missing my family. I would love to see them, and I probably don't get to see them enough. Particularly this year, I played with Central Coast Mariners for 6 months, so transitioned to soccer, and then have done back-to-back AFL seasons. So I've only been home for 2 weeks in 2 years.
Out of the 7?
Out of the last 2 years.
Right.
Over before that, I was doing 6 months of Gaelic football, 6 months of AFL. So I was getting half and half. But like with everything, everything, you can always say like life is you can always have a reason to go, well, like when I was doing the 6 months in Ireland, 6 months here, I was like, well, I'm not having consistency anywhere in my life. I'm part-time everything to everyone. Whereas now having consistency in Australia and playing with Central Coast Mariners and playing with Collingwood, it's been amazing. but then I just, at the cost of not going home enough. So, it's give and take whatever decisions you make, you got to live and die by them.
Yeah.
But I do think, there's times where I'm like, I need to spend more time at home. So did your family move over with you and kind of come on the journey with you the whole time? I suppose your initial family, but then your extended family were here, I say.
Yeah. At the time I had a wife and 2 kids, and I went over initially because it wasn't a guaranteed thing that I would make the position. I still had to fight for, it was essentially like about 6 months I had to compete against another punter who was already there to get the job. So my first 2 months I went alone. And then my wife and two boys came over and stayed with me for the last 3 months pretty much of that journey. So it was hard initially, but once they got there, I was fine. But I found every year I would come home, straight after the season, I would come home for about 4 months in the off season. But the hardest time for me was literally at the start of December when everyone was taking holidays and going down the beach and doing all that sort of stuff, whereas I still had 5-6 weeks to go left in the season and we were freezing our butts off.
Yeah.
So that's when I felt like, I'd rather be in the sun now or sitting on the beach somewhere. But it was, I knew that it wasn't long before I could come home after that. So it was generally okay. But if I had my wife and kids there and it was good. So it was great for me to be able to go to and from each year, which was good. So we kept our place here. And we had a place there set up. So we just came to and from. The kids switched schools back in Australia for a semester, and then they go back to American schools. So they had the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
So we knew that, like when we first got there, it was really hard because, setting up the whole house, bank accounts, that whole system over there was really hard. So we thought, my wife said 1 to 2 years. I said, okay, let's try and get 3 out. In the end, we ended up staying there for 7 seasons. So I turned 40. I was a little bit older than you. You were
22 when I first came out.
So that would have been like, I imagine myself, and I send kids over there now because I coach kids to punt and go to America, and they're 18, 19, 20. And you've got to be fairly committed at that age, or yourself when you had to go over. So it's I was 33, I think I said. I was 33 when I went over. So I'd had already a family and set up. So we just went wherever we had to go. So it was pretty cool on that part.
Yeah, definitely. I think going over when I was 22, I was like, I hadn't a clue who I was,
Yeah.
and you also, like, your family are your biggest influence in general, but like particularly at that time. So I remember kind of being like, who am I without my family? Like, I don't even know how to navigate through some things.
So you came alone.
Came alone, yeah. And I moved in with a teammate, Ruby Slisher. We lived together for 5 years. So that was a massive help because that helped me understand Australian culture. That helped me understand like the way the locker room works. That helped me understand just the game in general because the rules, I was getting them wrong all the time. And I was like, particularly, I remember my first training session, I was like, this is embarrassing. Like, I am terrible at this. I'm never going to get good at this. And I was like, they've signed a player. And because we never got paid in Gaelic football as well, I was like, they're paying me to be terrible at this. I was like, they're just going to cut my contract completely now because I was so bad at the start.
How did you go? I remember my first meeting that I sat in the NFL. I felt like I was sitting in a Japanese classroom, and I did not understand a word they said. It was like, this position does this, and then I had to realize that it doesn't all equate to me, but I needed to know it. So it was, to me, it was like listening to a Japanese person speak.
Oh, 100%. I was like, I need a dictionary. We need to put down all the slang words. Like things like, they were like, go through the corridor. I was like, what does that mean? Like, go to the middle of the field.
Yeah.
And then it would be like the boundary. And I'd be like, what is the boundary? And they'd be like, the sideline. So like there was stupid things like that I was like, I have no idea what's going on here.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you have the slang, bloody oath, mate, like all these things. And I was like, I'm checking out here.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of looking around being like waiting for someone to kind of see what I see or think what I think, and no one. You know, it's like crickets. It's like I'm in my own world here and no one really understands what I'm thinking. And they're probably like, who's this Irish girl? But now we have 3 Irish in the changing room, so it kind of helps things a lot. But yeah, definitely at the start, I had no idea game plans. I was like, for me, I was like, this couldn't be that many tactics in this game. It's organized chaos. Half the time, like you kick the ball long and like, it's kind of like 50-50 chance who wins it.
Yeah.
Whereas Gaelic football and like soccer is obviously a really technical sport. So I didn't realize how much preparation went into that side.
Was it not professional over there?
No, not professional. So soccer has become professional since, and Gaelic football is not professional on any level for the men's or the women's. And it's almost like everyone talks about being like, when is it going to go professional? Like the men's would have 80,000 at an All-Ireland final. We had 50,000 at our All-Ireland final. In the women's space. So still pride ourselves off the fact that it's, pride of place and for your family.
So no meetings or?
There's meetings. So most people work full time. So you'd work, even the men's work 9 to 5, and then you might travel an hour to 2 hours to get to training.
Oh, wow.
Train for 2 hours, get home at 9 or 10 at night. Like say I was living in Dublin. So for me to get to training was a 3-hour drive. And I do that 3 times a week. 3 hours down, train for 2 hours, 3 hours back up. So that's almost a full day's work when you think about it. It's 7 or 8 hours, and you'd have worked all day as well. So when I came to Collingwood, I was like, the lap of luxury here.
Yeah.
Like I just got to go 20 minutes, 10 minutes to drive to training. I get to train in the morning, and then I have my evenings off. So when I think about hard, I think about Gaelic football in Ireland, but it was all we knew. So it was like, you have to do this.
Yeah.
So when I got all the perks to over here, I was like, oh, this is amazing.
And
but I do miss the game.
Yeah, okay. Do you ever think you'll go back and play?
It's a hard one. I like Gaelic football has a very special place in my heart, and I really appreciate the game for what it is, and I appreciate it's the mentality around it and what I've learned as a person through it as well, and the resilience it's taught me, and like how I could, come over here and play AFL and have everything handed to me on a silver platter. But my mindset is essentially what keeps you here. But I learned that in Gaelic football, and I really appreciate that. So it seems hard to say that I'll never play it again. But at the same time, how will it work with the way AFLW is progressing as well? At the moment, there's some Irish players who are doing 6 months at home and they're playing Gaelic football. And it's case by case situation. Some clubs are allowing it and some clubs aren't. So it's kind of like see how the next few years go. But yeah, I would love to say that I would play for Mayo again. Have you ever dabbled in Gaelic football? You've never? Have you watched it?
No, not really. You'll see snippets of it here or there, but I haven't really been able to follow it. I don't understand any of the rules or anything like that. So it would be interesting. The only thing, the international rules is the only thing that I've seen that, might be close enough to that. But
did you leave thinking that was for good, or did you leave going like, I'm just going home for a few years, or how did that go? Because you obviously created a life over there as well.
Yeah. Initially, when I got cut from, because I was at the Redskins and I got cut from there, we came home for a little bit and then went back to the States we wanted to try and extend our stay to try and get onto another team. That didn't eventuate. So I had I stayed at Darren Bennett's place in San Diego, and we tried to, get back onto another team, and being 40 didn't help, I don't think. But I wasn't able to do that. And that's when I decided, that would be it, and come back home. I was 40 and I thought not the passion, but the drive might not have been there as much. I still was, committed to training as much, but I didn't need it as much as I did previously. So my oldest son was going into high school, and we said a few years before that, when he was at that high school stage that we'd come back. We tried to stay on, but it just happened to be that, it was high school time for him, and it pretty much just worked out that we were coming home anyway.
I always think about this for myself as well, being over here for such a significant period of time, that, if you were to leave here, have you stayed connected with people over there, or is that your job now is kind of helping you stay connected to the NFL world?
We were able to stay connected because we came back a lot. So, for that 3 or 4 months, friends, people that were here, all my kids had their connections through school. So we were able to, continue that and slot straight back into once we got back here.
But say now, are you still connected to
Oh,
your
to
American, the
the
friends you
America
made over
side of
there?
things. You know, a little bit, because the Eagles come here generally. They have the rights to promote here and to grow their brand here. So they come once a year, and I do a little bit of flag football stuff with the Eagles in mind and promote their brand. I have a little bit of connection with some of the players.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but there are a few that we stay in touch with. So it is good, that way.
And then what about when you actually just hung off the boots for the last time? Were you like, how's life been since then? And what was the transition out of sport like?
Yeah, I shouldn't have just stopped working out, because the body got really sore. About 3 months afterwards, the body got really sore. So I should have stayed connected, which I am now. But it was good. And having, the financial backing of the security of the NFL, of what I was able to do over there, hasn't really put a lot of pressure on me here to, get out there and find a job. So I'm almost a stay-at-home dad. I'm able to, help the kids out with their endeavors, and just, support the family in that way, which I got the support when I was, the one that needed it. So it was fun.
It's great to think that the NFL can do that for you, that, it's really set you up for life after sport. And just because, like, I think everyone worries about when they do finish sport, like even just keeping your mind active, like as sports people, we're obviously really curious. We're always trying to learn new things and just be open to like learning and like just training more or doing those extra things. I'm sure like when that ends, I'm like, where does your mind go to,
Yeah.
But I suppose you've kids, you've other things, other priorities.
Where is it going to take you?
Yeah, I think that's the interesting thing, and something probably I would have said that I'm probably a bit paranoid about and have been throughout my career, because in Ireland, again, we've, worked our whole lives and then we train. So it's always been a thing that your education is number one and then your sport is number two. But then coming over here, it was like sports number one, but also what are you doing for your education? So for me, I've always been like, okay, how can I upskill in that space? How can I study a bit more? How can I balance my life that I'm not just a sports person? So been doing a bit of work with Performance by Design. Have you heard of them before? Paul Rue's company.
Okay, yes.
It's just basically consultancy in leadership and culture, personality profiling. Obviously fascinated by team environments, because like when I think of going from my soccer environment to my Gaelic football to my AFL, each changing room was so different and brought so many new challenges. Now there's obviously common themes that you see from each team where you're like, that's what, helps success or whatever. But each changing room was quite different. So that has led me to be really interested in that space and how maybe in the future I could help, I suppose, help teams and understand how you can get the best out of individuals. I'm definitely really passionate about that part and just understanding people. But qualified teacher, no interest in teaching. No, thank you.
We need some good teachers out there.
These kids this is when I knew I was not a teacher. The kids say to me, Miss, I haven't done my homework. And I'm like, I don't care. I do not care.
That was enough to say I'm not teaching
That was
anymore.
enough. I'm like, this is not fair on the
So
kids.
were you a teacher at all?
I taught for a couple of months in Ireland, and honestly, it was a comedy. So I was like, how are they letting me into a classroom? I was just like, there's not enough passion in my body to do this for too much longer. It didn't, while it was challenging, it didn't like, I needed more change in my day. And like, that's actually something about me. I generally need change, new challenge all the time. Hence the reason I've went from Gaelic football to soccer to AFL.
Yeah.
It's like new things always excite me and keep my mind kind of, that's why I'm like, okay, sport's important, but I also need to be educated as well. So yeah, so done the stuff with Performance by Design. Last year I was working 1 day a week with Nick Maxwell in his company Eclar. It's co-working space, but that was just he was kind of mentoring me and has been great to me since I actually came here from the very first day. So kind of stayed connected to that. then do some work in the media as well. So just trying to kind of balance everything while sport's my priority.
Yeah.
It's like I kind of like chip away at these things in the background because I'm like, when it all ends, where will I go? But I'm trying to figure that out as I go, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I've seen some of your media stuff. You like that?
Yeah, I do enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's challenging in a different way as well, because obviously if anyone interviews you, it's easy. You just chat back. You just
Yeah.
base off your own experience. It's different when, we sit down here and have a chat and, you got to do your homework on people. Same if you're speaking about a team, you actually have to do quite a bit of research before you go into that. And then trying to articulate yourself within whatever you have, if it's TV, like 10 or 15 seconds. Things like that I never thought about. I always looked at people on TV and go, oh, that's pretty easy, like stock standard question. But when you're put under pressure with it, like it can be challenging. So I found that exciting, that piece. Now, I don't know where it'll go. I think I'm just trying, between radio, TV and podcasting and kind of see what I feel fits in the meantime.
Yeah. I don't know how you do the media part of it.
You don't like it? Well, here you are.
Yeah.
So I want to ask about the cultural difference in the fan experience with Philadelphia and Collingwood.
Well, the fan experience. You'd know what the fan experience in Philadelphia like, because they are a lot like the Collingwood supporters.
One-eyed?
One-eyed, very fanatical. They need the job to get done, and if the job doesn't get done, they certainly let you know about it. So it was almost like I had 9 years at Collingwood and then 6 years at North, and it was like almost going back to the Collingwood side of things when I went over there with the Philly fans. So they're very passionate. Going to the games, there would the whole outside area of the ground, their whole tailgating that they do would start at about 6:30 a.m. So we'd have a 1 p.m. game or a 4 p.m. game or an evening game, 6:30, they'd start to flood the gates. They would have breakfast. They would, get drunk by, 10 o'clock. They'd go to sleep, wake up for lunch, get drunk again and have another sleep, and then they'd be ready for the game. And some of them wouldn't even go in to watch the game. They just hang out there and just, watch it on their TVs that were in their buses. So, but that was pretty cool. The culture, Philadelphia is very one-eyed Eagles, and they love their sport. So hence why there was, when they won their Super Bowl last year, there would have been like 1 million people in, Broad Street, which was their main street down the city. So they loved it. It was good.
And what was the difference in the social media side of things, in, I suppose, the praise or the scrutiny? What was the difference there?
Well, social media, like I got there at 2007 and social media was just, I think, starting to come in. I think I got my iPhone in 2008 or something. And then, but I recall I didn't really, I've only just started getting on social media like in the last few years. So, but I remember the kicker, Dave Akers, who was there, and he was on Instagram or Facebook, and he missed a field goal to win the game, and he got death threats. And it's just so scary. So he decided that, there was no more social media for him, so he got rid of it, and it was a pretty scary thing. So it was, especially when so many people are passionate about winning and losing, they forget that, there are real people behind, their performances. So yeah, it was pretty brutal. And what about sport was it really publicized over there in Ireland?
Not so much. Again, same thing, like social media was kind of up and coming. In when I was growing up playing sport, it was becoming a bigger thing, but not as much as it is now. And I think it's probably done a bit differently over in Australia versus Ireland as well. I think it's probably a bit tamer back in Ireland, but obviously, like you said, there's cameras everywhere here as well.
Yeah.
So like characters are known, and even characters when they're in public. I think in the men's space, obviously, everyone knows them. In the women's space, they are starting to know them. But it's still taking time to grow the game like that. But definitely there's still a lot of recognisable faces in the female game, which is great.
The balls between Gaelic football and Australian football, how do they differ, and how did you learn to kick the Aussie rules ball?
Well, obviously with soccer and Gaelic, it's a round ball. And
Yep.
then the Sherrin obviously being the most awkward shape of all. So how I went kicking it at the start, not great. All I was told was I need to drop the ball and the ball needs to spin backwards.
Yep.
So I remember being on the court in Collingwood with Nick Maxwell. And he firstly threw me under the bus and said, go and run and bounce the ball. And I was like I've done this, no worries with the round ball. But anyway, that was an embarrassing few minutes. But then kicking it, I had Maxi and then Tarek and Lockyer as well, who just coached me through it the first couple of weeks. And I was lucky enough to have great coaches around me who were like, just more reps and more reps. And quickly enough, I think I got the hang of that. I think that was almost the easiest part of the transition was kicking for me.
Right.
Whereas I think in terms of like the physicality side, because both soccer and Gaelic are non-contact, that was a challenge. The 360 nature of the game. And then I think probably the tactical side and then ground ball side of it, getting out of congestion. I feel like they were the areas that I probably struggled with most. But the kicking was probably the easiest skill of all.
So with Gaelic, were you kicking straight or was it more around the body?
That's why as well, Irish people, we always say, can we just do it our own way because we know how to kick this ball our way.
Yeah.
So we want to kind of come in at a side angle and we can kick it with the front, but we want to kind of slice it.
Right.
So, and we feel that that's more direct. We do a lot of like cross-field balls in Gaelic football. So a lot of the Irish kick it like that if you watch them play. So when they're telling us to straighten up our hips, we're like, no, we don't want to straighten up our hips. We want to kind of go like across the body. We also kick with the instep of our foot a lot or the outstep of our foot.
Okay.
So we don't generally kick with, like that would be, it's not an unskilled thing to do in Gaelic football, but it's not really the best look is going front on. So yeah, that was a change just to be always like straighten up your hips.
So under pressure here, you'd be really good at just opening up your hips and just hitting a target.
Love that. If I had to, or if I was coming around the corner to kick it, but I would rather kick a goal around the corner as well.
Yeah.
So, so it's different that way.
Yeah.
But so the role of a punter, like you're used to coming from AFL, being on the ground for 2 hours.
Yes.
Tell us about that difference.
That was pretty hard because my first game I only had 3 punts, so maybe a total of like a minute and a half on the field out of the whole 3 hours that we were there. So it was pretty hard, and in that 3 minutes, like the amount of time that I actually get to touch the ball. 3 punts. The amount of time that I would get to touch the ball, I'd catch the ball and I'd have to get rid of it in 1.3 seconds. So that's like I had the ball in my hand for literally 4 seconds of the whole game. So it was really hard to grasp that part of it. My mind was always wired initially, and I was extremely tired, mentally fatigued in those first few games. Whereas by the end of the career, I was able to, I had my punt. Now I go to the sideline and I relax and I just switch off. It was a big learning curve that first year, punting over there.
But even with that, like it's 3 or 4 seconds, how does a punter stay fit throughout the week then?
Yeah, well, that's the thing that people think that you're doing nothing. But in a game, the offense will have, 13 or 14 drives. Every time they get to second or third down, I have to be ready to go on the field. Now, if they're really backed up, I've had 10 to 15 kicks on the sideline into the net in that first section. If they drive, 40 or 50 yards, I could have possibly 30 to 40 kicks in the side of the net before I actually go out on the field. So I actually not quite counted exactly, but I recall around 200 kicks I would have per game, regardless of whether I had 1 kick in a game or 10 kicks in a game, because I had to be ready to go.
Okay, yeah.
So, and keeping fit, you had to do your own running, your own gym.
What was the purpose of making you run when you didn't have to do it in games?
Well, I had to kick the ball.
Yeah.
And then once I kicked the ball, we had to cover the field.
Yeah.
So, and once you cover the field. If they get through the returner that you're kicking the ball to,
Yeah.
then I have to chase and tackle and do all that sort of stuff. So you had to stay in shape for that.
But very different type of running than you would have done in AFL.
Explosive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was all explosive. No cardio.
Yeah.
No
So
long stuff.
would your speed have increased much when you got to the NFL then?
I was already quick, so I didn't.
Hey.
No, but I was old and I was sore, so I couldn't, do a lot more.
Yeah. I think
speed.
AFL actually can slow you down. So that's why I'm asking that
Speed-wise?
question. Yeah, a lot of the Gaelic players, because we come over and then we have to do more strength because you have to be a bit of everything
Yeah.
with AFL. This is what we find now. This is our own theories,
Yeah.
backed by no science. But we have we do a lot more gym work, a lot more long distance running. So we find that we lose the turn of pace that we've had
Yeah.
from Gaelic football. So that's why I'm wondering, did your speed increase as you went to the NFL because of the way they trained you?
No, it didn't.
No. Okay.
Because I felt my leg power decreased a little bit because we did so much kicking here that my leg strength was good. I think my speed probably stayed around about the same initially and then started to die off as I was aging. But being a full forward back in the day, I didn't need – I should have – and I did work on the cardio side of things. But I relied heavily on my speed here.
Yeah.
So it was, it was something that, I always had, able to get off my backman and equate to that. So it was, but I don't think, it got any quicker over there. And when I got over there, I was pretty much left to my own accord. I spoke to the strength and conditioning guy and he said, we're not going to tell you what to do. You're 33. You've been a professional athlete for 15 years. You know what to do. So I was able to go in and do my own thing pretty much. And
So they didn't give you a prescribed gym program?
No, not at all. No, I did my own thing and it was more specific to punting. So,
yeah. Did you actually, I know you know what to do because you've done it for years, but isn't there progressive overload and all that stuff that you were just I'm just going to do my own thing?
I thought I was strong at the time and I just, maintained that strength.
Yeah.
I maintained flexibility. I did yoga. I did, I had to go get my own massages away from the club. They don't provide that.
Right.
So, I did everything on the sideline and got my own stuff done.
Now, Sav, I can't say I've kicked as many goals as you have at Vic Park, but we have to talk about it because every time I go there, I feel this sense of history, and having not come from Australia or known, I suppose, the before life in Vic Park, there's something special about that place.
Yeah, I loved playing there. It was great. I mean, we didn't have the best facilities at the time, but I just loved the field. I loved the grandstands and the history behind it. We would get 95% of the supporters that were there were all Collingwood supporters, so we felt like that we had, the support there, and it was just the field was great. We loved it. I moved to North Melbourne when they moved to where it is now. So I didn't actually have to leave Vic Park and go somewhere else. So I stayed at Vic Park my whole Collingwood career.
So did you guys do all your gym work and everything in Vic Park as well? Yeah.
Yeah, it was all done underneath the grandstand there.
Yeah. So times have changed a bit at Collingwood, obviously being at the AA Centre now, but we as a women's programme get the privilege of playing there as our home stadium. So yeah, it's a very special place, and it's cool when you see things on the walls and you see what's come before you.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I really like it.
Thanks, Sav, for the chat. It was great to get to know all about your story and the details of it all.
I guess we do have some similarities. I wasn't sure where it was going to take us, but good luck for the rest of your career and hopefully enjoy it.
Thank you.